Dear guests, please take headphones for the interpretation.
Abi nasılsın?
You can take.
Ne var ne yok?
You can take. No. I will speak first in Turkish, so you need translate.
Okay.
And then I can guess. No problem.
We need. Let me go. You have.
No, it's hers.
No, it's okay.
Yes.
My husband.
see husbands are useful as well from time to
Yes.
time. From time to time.
Yeah.
Useful as well.
Έναν έλεγχο, οι μεταφραστές μας ακούν. Εντάξει. Στα αγγλικά. Δεν έχουμε απάντηση. Παντού. Οκ. Όλοι χρειαζόμαστε ακουστικά, μεταφραστικά, γιατί θα υπάρχουν και 3 γλώσσες στις εργασίες της συζήτησης μας. Οκ. Should we start? Selma? No translation. Ναι. Ναι. Οκ.
Second Turkish, isn't it?
It's... Λοιπόν, να ξεκινήσουμε. Ρυθμίζουν ακόμα τις οι μεταφραστές.
And 3 is Turkish.
Το ένα είναι ελληνικά, το 2 αγγλικά και το 3 τουρκικά.
In English? We should say in English, I think.
What should we say?
The channels.
No, but we say the different... Okay, to say the numbers for the channels. The first one is for Greek. The second one is for English, and the third one is for Turkish language. Is it okay? So maybe we'll start. Could we begin? Yes, sir.
Here?
No, from the podium.
Değerli konuklar, değerli dostlar, değerli yoldaşlar, iki toplumlu barış inisiyatifi tarafından Kıbrıs'taki İsviçre Büyükelçiliği işbirliğiyle düzenlenen Avrupa Birliği Sivil Alan tarafından desteklenen panelimize hoş geldiniz. Öncelikle İsviçre Federal Yönetim Sistemini, bu bağlamda güç paylaşımını, demokratik katılımı, farklı kültür, etnik temel ve dillerin yönetimi modelini bizlere anlatacak, bizlerle paylaşacak olan İsviçre Kıbrıs Büyükelçisi Sayın Christoph Burgener'a inisiyatif adına teşekkür etmek isteriz. Ayrıca panelimize katılarak İsviçre Federal Sistemini Kıbrıs görüşmeleri bağlamında değerlendirecek olan CTP Milletvekili Sayın Asım Akansoy'a ve AKEL Merkez Komite Üyesi Sayın İlyas Dimitriou'ya da teşekkür ederiz. Bu panele katılan siz değerli konuklara ve panel organizasyonunda katkı koyan herkese, emeği geçen ve hayatlarını adamızda federal çözüme ve barışa adamış barış savaşçısı arkadaşlarımıza da teşekkürü bir borç biliriz. Değerli dostlar, bildiğiniz gibi adamızda çatışmalar, savaşlar, acılar, kayıplar, gözyaşları yaşanmış, yarım asırdan fazladır adamız bölünmüş, ateşkes sağlanmış, ancak çözüm, barış sağlanamamıştır. Ülkemizde gelinen bu durumun sorumlusu ise sadece Kıbrıs Türk toplumu temsilcileri, Kıbrıs Rum toplumu temsilcileri ya da bu durumdan en çok nemalanan Türkiye değil, hukuki sorumluluklarından kaçan Avrupa Birliği, Birleşmiş Milletler, İngiltere, Yunanistan gibi uluslararası camiadır ve hatta Amerika'dır. Defalarca her platformda da değindiğimiz gibi, dile getirdiğimiz gibi, adamızın bölünmüşlüğü her iki toplumu da mağdur etmektedir. Ancak Kıbrıslı Türkler çok daha derin bir mağduriyet yaşamaktadır. Bölünmüş adamızın kuzeyi Türkiye tarafından kuşatma altındadır. Uygulanan asimilasyon, entegrasyon politikaları yanında taşınan nüfus nedeniyle Kıbrıslı Türkler azınlığa düşürülmüş, demografik yapısı bozulmuş, iradesi elinden alınmıştır. Seçimlerine hatta parti kurultaylarına kadar müdahalelere maruz kalmaktadır. Yerel işbirlikçi ya da atanmış hükümetler aracılığıyla çıkarılan yasalarla anayasal hak ve özgürlükleri, örgütlü mücadele, sendikal hareket, demokratik değerleri saldırı altındadır. Kurumları, kıyıları, dağları, taşları ele geçirilmiş, peşkeş çekilmiş durumdadır. Şu anda Türkiye'de iktidarda olan AKP rejiminin dayatma ekonomik paketleriyle ideolojisi doğrultusunda dizayn etmeye çalıştığı eğitim sistemi aracılığıyla, cami, külliye inşaatıyla, vakıf, cemaat, dernek ve tarikatlarıyla yeni bir rejim inşa etmeye çalışmakta. Bu bağlamda toplum mühendisliği çalışmalarının her geçen gün dozu artırılmaktadır. Tüm bunlara karşı Kıbrıslı Türkler varoluş mücadelesi vermektedir. Ancak ne yazık ki bu mücadele, bu varoluş kavgası adamızla ilgili büyük güçlerin çıkar kavgalarına, siyasi oyunlarına kurban edilmekte. Kıbrıslı Türklerin en temel insan hakkı olan yaşam hakkı, varoluş hakkı uluslararası camia tarafından yok sayılmaktadır. Uluslararası hukukun dışında bırakılan adamızın kuzeyinde insan kaçakçılığı, kara para aklama, insan ticareti, sahtekarlık, yolsuzluk, rüşvet, peşkeş düzeni oluşturulmuş. Bu mafya düzeninden yeşil sermaye, ayrıca yerel de dahil tüm üst düzey yöneticiler nemalanmaktadır. Oluşturulan bu bataklık düzeni karşısında başta öğretmenler olmak üzere sessiz kalmayan, tepki gösteren, mücadele eden kesimler susturulmaya, sindirilmeye, korkutulmaya çalışılmaktadır. Bu amaçla AKP talimatıyla yasalar yapılmakta, troller, yandaş basın ya da provokatörler aracılığıyla aydın kesimlere linç kampanyaları düzenlenmekte, baskı ve tehditlere maruz bırakılmaktadır. Türkiye'de olduğu gibi başta düşünce ve ifade özgürlüğü olmak üzere tüm özgürlüklerin, demokratik değerlerin ortadan kaldırılması dayatmalarına, oluşturulmak istenen antidemokratik korku düzenine karşı Kıbrıslı Türkler direnmekte, insanca yaşam için, hak, hukuk, adalet için, eşitlik, özgürlük, bağımsızlık için mücadele vermektedir. Her iki toplumdan barış severler, barış savaşçıları, her iki toplumda yükselen ya da yükseltilmek için ayrılıkçıların teşvik ettiği şöven, aşırı milliyetçi söylem, karar ve uygulamalara, silahlanmalara, savaş çığırtkanlıklarına rağmen mevcut statükodan en fazla nemalanan çevrelerin çözümsüzlük ya da iki devletli çözüm naraları karşısında sessiz, tepkisiz kalan tüm siyasilere ya da çevrelere rağmen federal çözüm için uzun yıllardır her platformda her türlü mücadeleyi ortaya koymaktadır. İşte bu panel bu amaçla organize edilmiştir. Her ne kadar büyük güçlerin çıkar anlaşmalarının sorunun çözümünde önemli bir faktör olduğu bilinse dahi genişletilmiş konferansın gündem olduğu bu günlerde Birleşmiş Milletler kararlarının uluslararası hukukun dikkate alınacağı, Crans-Montana çizgisine dönülmesinin hedeflendiği bir siyasi iradenin ortaya konması durumunda ancak çözümün de hedeflenebileceği ve gerçekleştirilebileceği aşikardır. Bu iradenin ortaya konmasında elbette her iki toplumun da bu yönde sesini yükseltmesi, barış çözüm talebini ortaya koyması da önemli rol oynamaktadır. İki toplumlu barış inisiyatifi Birleşik Kıbrıs olarak adamızda federal çözüm ve kalıcı barış için, barış kültürü oluşturmak için yıllardır olduğu gibi mücadele etmeye devam edeceğimizin bir kez daha altını çizmek isteriz. Genişletilmiş konferansın bu kez olumlu sonuçlanmasının geleceğimiz için, çocuklarımız için, ülkemizde ve hatta bölgemizde silahların, savaşın çirkin yüzüne değil, barış çiçeklerinin açacağı güzel günlere çok yakında hep birlikte tanık olmak umudu ve dileğiyle hepinizi saygıyla selamlarım.
Αγαπητοί παρευρισκόμενοι και συμμετέχοντες, εκ μέρους της Δικοινοτικής Πρωτοβουλίας Ειρήνης Ενωμένη Κύπρος, σας καλωσορίζω στην εκδήλωσή μας. Ευχαριστούμε θερμά και ειλικρινά όλους όσους είναι μαζί μας, τον συνομιλητή κύριο Μενελάου, τους αξιότιμους πρέσβεις και εκπροσώπους των πρεσβειών της Ιρλανδίας, Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών, Αυστρίας, Σλοβακίας, τους εκπροσώπους των Ηνωμένων Εθνών και της Ευρωπαϊκής Επιτροπής στην Κύπρο, τους εκπροσώπους των πολιτικών κομμάτων, ελληνοκυπριακών και τουρκοκυπριακών, τους εκπροσώπους οργανώσεων και κινημάτων και από τις δύο πλευρές της διαχωριστικής γραμμής. Ευχαριστούμε ιδιαίτερα τον κεντρικό ομιλητή της εκδήλωσής μας, τον πρέσβη της Ελβετίας στην Κύπρο, τον κύριο Christoph Burgener, ο οποίος θα παρουσιάσει τα βασικά χαρακτηριστικά του ελβετικού μοντέλου ομοσπονδίας. Ευχαριστούμε τους κυρίους Ασίμα Κανσόη και Ηλία Δημητρίου, που με τις παρεμβάσεις τους θα αναφερθούν στα διδάγματα που μπορούν να αντιληφθούν από την ελβετική εμπειρία και τις προοπτικές επιλύσεις του Κυπριακού. Ιδιαίτερες ευχαριστίες εκφράζουμε προς τον εκπρόσωπο των αρμόδιων επικεφαλής του τμήματος για του Ιούψο, οι οποίοι μας στήριξαν το Civic Space και χωρίς τη στήριξή τους δεν θα μπορούσαμε να πραγματοποιήσουμε αυτή την εκδήλωση. Ευχαριστούμε και όλους εσάς, τους φίλους και συναγωνιστές, που είστε πάντα παρόντες και παρούσες στις κοινές δράσεις και προσπάθειές μας για να συμβάλλουμε όλοι μαζί, ως κοινωνία των πολιτών, στο στόχο για επανένωση του τόπου μας για μια Κύπρο ομόσπονδη, δικοινοτική, διζωνική και με πολιτική ισότητα, όπου οι άνθρωποι της θα ζουν, θα δημιουργούν και θα ευημερούν σε ένα τόπο συνεργασίας, ειρήνης και ανάπτυξης. Αγαπητοί κύριοι και κυρίες, φίλοι και φίλες, είναι γνωστό ότι κανένα ομοσπονδιακό σύστημα δεν είναι το ίδιο με το άλλο, παρά το ότι έχουν όλα κάποια κοινά χαρακτηριστικά, όπως ένα κράτος, μια κυριαρχία, μια ηθαγένεια, μια διεθνή οντότητα. Η Ελβετία αποτελεί ένα χαρακτηριστικό παράδειγμα κράτους που έχει καταφέρει να διαχειριστεί αποτελεσματικά τη γλωσσική, πολιτισμική και θρησκευτική πολυμορφία, διασφαλίζοντας έτσι παράλληλα τη δημοκρατική συμμετοχή, την πολιτική ισότητα και τη σταθερότητα. Θεωρούμε ότι η παρουσία εδώ του πρέσβη και η παρουσίαση και η συζήτηση γύρω από το ομοσπονδιακό παράδειγμα της Ελβετίας μπορεί να συμβάλλει στην καλύτερη ενημέρωση και προβληματισμό, προσφέροντας τη δυνατότητα για ανοιχτό διάλογο ανάμεσα στους πολίτες, Ελληνοκύπριους και Τουρκοκύπριους. Μέσα από την παρουσίαση του ελβετικού μοντέλου, που θεωρείται μια επιτυχημένη διεθνής εμπειρία, στοχεύουμε στον προβληματισμό όλων όσων εμπλέκονται στο κυπριακό πρόβλημα και τις προσπάθειες για λύση του. Αγαπητές κυρίες και κύριοι, φίλοι και φίλες, αυτή την περίοδο παρακολουθούμε την απεσταλμένη του Γενικού Γραμματέα του ΟΗΕ, κυρία Ολκή, να καταβάλει έντονες προσπάθειες για διαβουλεύσεις με όλους τους εμπλεκόμενους και με στόχο να επαναρχίσουν οι συνομιλίες, στοχεύοντας να φτάσουμε σε μια συμφωνημένη λύση. Η Δικοινοτική Πρωτοβουλία Ειρήνης, Ενωμένη Κύπρος, θεωρεί ότι οι δύο ηγέτες πρέπει να συνεργαστούν επικοδομητικά και με πολιτική βούληση με την κυρία Νολκίν για να επιτευχθεί πρόοδος στις παρούσες προσπάθειες των Ηνωμένων Εθνών. Στόχος πρέπει να συνεχίσει να είναι η εξέβρεση λύσης στη βάση των σχετικών ψηφισμάτων του ΟΗΕ και των συγκλήσεων που έχουν επιτευχθεί μέχρι και κατά το Κρας Μοντάνα, όπου τον Ιούλιο του 2017 οι δύο πλευρές έφτασαν λίγα βήματα πριν τη λύση. Θεωρούμε ότι θα ήταν υποβοηθητικό ο Γενικός Γραμματέας του ΟΗΕ, τα Ηνωμένα Έθνη, να συντάξουν έναν ενοποιημένο έγγραφο με όλες αυτές τις συγκλήσεις που έχουν μέχρι σήμερα επιτευχθεί για να υποβοηθηθεί η διαδικασία συνεννόησης και συμφωνίας. Στον παρόντα σύγχρονο δυστοπικό χρόνο που βιώνουμε, ιδίως στην περιοχή μας, των συγκρούσεων, των πολιτικών αυθαιρεσιών και των παραβιάσεων του διεθνούς νόμου και δικαίου, ελοχεύει ο κίνδυνος το πρόβλημά μας να θαυτεί μέσα στη δίνη των διεθνών εξελίξεων. Θεωρούμε ότι δεν υπάρχουν άλλα περιθώρια για συνέχιση του status quo ή για την αποτυχία. Ως εκ τούτου, οι προσπάθειες του Γενικού Γραμματέα του ΟΗΕ, μέσω της απεσταλμένης του της κυρίας Ολκίν, αναμένουμε να δώσουν φως και ελπίδα για να σπάσει το αδιέξοδο και να ανοίξει ο δρόμος για επανένωση της Κύπρου μας. Ευχόμαστε να γίνει δυνατή η σύγκληση της άτυπης διευρυμένης διάσκεψης 5 και 1. Ευχόμαστε και ελπίζουμε η αλλαγή του Γενικού Γραμματέα του ΟΗΕ, πως γνωστό φεύγει τέλος του χρόνου, να μην σημαίνει και την καταδίκη του Κυπριακού σε στασιμότητα, αλλά να έχουμε συνέχιση των προσπαθειών στο ίδιο πλαίσιο και την ίδια βάση των ψηφισμάτων του ΟΗΕ, το συγκλήσιο του πλαισίου Κουτέρες. Ελπίζουμε οι ηγέτες των δύο κοινοτήτων, η Ελλάδα, η Τουρκία, η Μεγάλη Βρετανία, η Ευρωπαϊκή Επιτροπή, να συμβάλλουν θετικά στις προσπάθειες αυτές για να επιτευχθεί μια συμφωνημένη λύση που θα φέρει την επανένωση του τόπου μας. Γιατί, όπως λέει η σπουδαία συμπατριώτησά μας ποιήτρια Νεριμάν Τζαχίτ, εκφράζοντας τον πόνο του πειρασμένου τόπου μας, στο ποίημα της «Αργήσαμε πολύ Κλεοπάτρα», «Τσοκ τσοκ γκέτς καλτή Κλεοπάτρα», λέει «Φέρε μου μπαχαρικά για το μεσαρίτικο ψωμί μου, Κλεοπάτρα. Φέρε μου κρασί από τα μπέγια της Λεμεσού. Κι έλα να σηκώσουμε τα ποτήρια μας για τη φιλία και την ειρήνη. Φέρε μου μια χούφτα χώμα από τα νότια μέρη, Κλεοπάτρα. Κι έλα να φυτέψουμε λουλούδια της ειρήνης στις γλάστρες μας, που χρόνια τώρα μένουν άδειες. Αργούμε πολύ, πάρα πολύ, Κλεοπάτρα. Έλα, Κλεοπάτρα. Έλα μαζί μου να φυτέψουμε αμυγδογιές στην πράσινη γραμμή και να μπογιάσουμε την ειρήνη στα κλαδιά τους, για να θύζουν κάθε άνοιξη. Ναι, ας μην αργήσουμε άλλο. Ας τερματιστεί αυτός ο διαχωρισμός του πόνου και της ντροπής. Οι ηγέτες των δύο κοινοτήτων πρέπει να βρουν τη γλώσσα της πολιτικής βούλησης και συνεννόησης και να συνεργαστούν για επανένωση του τόπου μας. Το χρωστούν σε εμάς, το χρωστούν σε όλους τους Κυπρίους, τους νέους και τους μεγαλύτερους, το χρωστούν σε αυτό το δύσμυρο και πανέμορφο τόπο μας. Ευχαριστώ για την προσοχή σας και θα συνεχίσουμε με τις εργασίες. Παρακαλώ τον πρέσβη της Επιτροπής να πάρει το λόγο.
Can somebody help me how to fix it? No, first of all, thank you very much to the organizers. It's a great pleasure to be here, and it's really now an opportunity to show federalism and to give some insights. But I have to first to say a little bit to warn you. It's what I'm doing here is, as it was said, it's to give some spotlights on federalism. It's not an academic lecture. There are lectures for months and months if you really want to go into it. So I would say it's a crash course on federalism. It's a speed dating with federalism, what I'm doing here the next 20 minutes, half an hour. And then the second one, Switzerland, we are exporting cheese, we are exporting watches, we are very strong in pharmaceutical, but we don't export federalism. That's really, it's really very important to know that we are not now coming here and saying, listen, our model is the best and you can copy paste and so on. If you find some interesting ideas from our model, that would be wonderful, but it's really not a recommendation. It's not on Switzerland to give you recommendations or to make proposals, but it's really important to say that it is not an advice, it is not a proposal, it's just a presentation of Swiss federalism on its own, and no links to some suggestions or proposals should be done. That's very important. Now let's start the journey to Swiss federalism. Switzerland, in a nutshell, the surface 4 times larger than the island of Cyprus. We are not surrounded by a beautiful sea. We are surrounded by big countries like Italy, like Germany, like Austria, like France, and Liechtenstein. And Switzerland is a patchwork. You see 26 cantons, 2,500 municipalities, and 1 state. And that is what federalism makes, that we really have these 3 layers. And the languages, we come to the next one. There you see the French-speaking part is about 26-27%, the German-speaking part 68%, the Italian part 7-8%, and the Romansh it's only 1 or 2%. We have 4 languages, 4 national languages, but 3 official languages. Official languages German, French, and Italian. And so every law, everything has to be translated in all the 3 languages. They are really equally treated, but not the Romansh. That's only a national language and is not an official language. When we talk about Switzerland, like everywhere, we have different characters, different cultures. We have the traditional cantons, where it's really traditional. You see that as well, I come to it later, that they as well in their behavior when they vote, they are more reluctant to join the European Union, while the city centers like Zurich, like Geneva, like Basel, they are more forward-looking and they are more open for an approachment to the European Union. And so we have there different, of course, it's diversity and harmony in that, but we have also the different cultures. So in the middle we have the cow fighting, and that's exactly, every Swiss knows when you see a picture, that's in the valleys. It's no other canton that do it. There is the other one is the onion market, that's in Bern. Every Swiss knows it. When there is the onion market in the first week of, I don't know, October, November, then it's on TV. So Bern has now its onion market, and you have the carnival, the very famous one in Basel and in Lucerne. So we have really different traditions. We have really different cultures when it comes to that. And it's really a canton. It has his really strong identity, not with the language, not with the religion only, but as well with the culture. So to say, you know, when I say harmony, diversity in harmony and harmony in diversity, it's not always this harmony. Here is now the vote, when we had to vote for joining the European Economic Area. It's the first step to enter into the European Union. So Liechtenstein, Norway, and Iceland are in this European Economic Area. You see the vote. The French-speaking part in green, they voted in favor. And then you see the very traditional one and the more rural part of Switzerland were against. So there you see it's not always this harmony and so on. But and it's a magic that we respect it. You know, it's with the French part, they lose a lot of referendums and votations, because the German-speaking part with 68% is stronger and they are a little bit more reluctant, they are more conservative, whereas the French-speaking part in green, they are more progressive. Now when we come to the federalism, then the famous 3 layers, there is one state, there we have 26 cantons and 400 municipalities. And what is very important to see, that when it comes to federalism, it's this principle of subsidiarity, and that nothing that can be done at a lower political level should be done at a higher level. So when it comes for a municipal road, then it's a municipality. They build the road, they pay the road. If it's a cantonal road from one municipality in the same canton to the other one, then it's the canton who is paying and who is responsible for that. When it comes to highway that are linking all the cantons, then it's the federal level, and the federal level is also paying for it. That's really this division of labor, this division as well of costs as well. That's very important and gives a lot of autonomy to the different cantons. And the key for our federalism is Article 3 of our constitution. So the cantons are sovereign. And only if we give the power to the federal state, then they can do it. And to give the power to the federal state, you have to change the constitution. And if you change the constitution, you must have not only the majority of the people, but as well the majority of the cantons. We have 26 cantons, so you need 14 cantons that are in favor. And so you have really the balance and the power of the cantons that is really reflected in this article. Then when it comes to federalism, it's really in our DNA. It's in a school in Geneva, there is a German girl, a Swiss girl, an Italian boy, and an Austrian one. So they are there and they are discussing, listen, where do the babies come from? The French one said, you know, it's l'amour. You know, if the parents, they love each other, then, and if they love each other for 1 or 2 years, they can go to the hospital and then they can get the baby. But, oh, that's interesting. And what's with the Italian? Then the Italian, Elena, she says, you know, with us as well, it's amore, amore. But we don't go to the hospital. The parents, they go to the church, and then they can pick up the baby. And then they are asking the German, the Austrian one, and you, how are the babies? Where do the babies come from? You know, if you are always healthy, if you are not smoking, if you are always nice, then the stork is coming and brings you the baby into the house. And then they are asking Heidi from Switzerland, where do the babies come from? And then Heidi says, listen, it depends in which canton you are. It's so different. It depends from canton to canton. So that reflects a little bit our autonomy and how we see how it reflects on a daily life. And it's as well, it's on football teams and so on. It's really a competition. Yeah, we come later to the tax competition as well, but it's everywhere. Yeah. So when we come to the 3 layers, we said we have the 3 layers. There's the confederation, the federal layer, and there are, and you can read it here as well in the newspaper, when it comes to federal powers, you have foreign security, foreign policy, security, customs, nuclear energy, we have environment and highways. That are there are others, minor one as well, but that are the principal layers where they have the autonomy. And all the tasks that are not expressly assigned to the Confederation by the federal constitutions are then the responsibility of the cantons. We come back to Article 3 of the Constitution. When we come to the parliament, then we have a bicameral parliament, like in the US, like in Germany. So we have there the National Council, and then the Council of States, National Council. There are elections in each canton, and it depends on the population. My canton can send 7, and Zurich sending 35, Geneva 22, and so on. Then they form the National Council. Then the second chamber, the Council of States. There are 46 members. It's 46, 48. I can't see yet. So each canton can have two members to the Council of State. And even if it's a small canton with 35,000 inhabitants, or it's Zurich with nearly 1 million inhabitants, they all have 2 states. So it's a huge power of the cantons that they have there, that they can have the same rights there. They have different, they are electing then the Federal Council. We come back to that later. That's the government. That's the federal government, 7 federal councillors, and they elect as well the federal courts. And what's interesting as well, the 2 of them, they are electing as well the Attorney General. So they form a committee, the Judicial Committee here. They select a candidate, and then they propose it to the Parliament, and then it will be elected by the federal Parliament, United Federal Assembly. So it's not like in other countries here, it's really the Parliament who is as well electing the Attorney General, for example. So when we come to the government, there are these 7 members, and it's a 4-year term, and it's really a power-sharing model. So each and every party is represented, not each and every party, the 4 strongest parties are represented in the federal government. So we have 2 liberals, we have 2 Christian party, we have 2 socialists, and we have 1 Christian, no, sorry, 2 of the People's Party, yeah, and only 1 from the Christian party, and that reflects the proportion that they are represented in the government. And then we have the change as a president. So every year our president is changing. And I really, sometimes when they are asking me who is president, I think, who is now this year the president? This year is the Minister of Economy. Last year it was the Minister of Finance. Before that it was the Minister of Defense. Next year it will be the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So you have this rotation system. On the one hand, it's of course it's a great system. On the other hand, when we go to different, when we go to international conferences and so on, we don't have a Macron. We don't have, we have always another president. We are not known. It's for the network. It's really very difficult to build up a network with other head of states. I remember when. My wife, she was ambassador in Germany, and then she went to Angela Merkel and said, listen, our new president would like to see you. And then Angela Merkel said, every year another president, I'm fed up, So there are advantages, disadvantages, And, you know, when they go to the UN General Assembly, you know, in this high-level week and so on, it's every year it's another one. So then we don't have this network. It's really a lack for that, yeah. But of course, it's we don't like, in Switzerland, we don't like when people are too powerful. So we cut the power, so there is really no danger that there is some powerful president and has too much influence. And the president is primus inter pares. He has more a diplomatic role to welcome head of states and to open or to go to New York and so on. But for interior politics, he has not an outstanding role. He is guiding the sessions and the meetings of the Federal Council once a week. But it's really only a primus inter pares role, yeah. And the power sharing, of course, that's exactly because all the parties are in our government. We don't have an opposition and a government. So the opposition is included in our government. And when it comes, let's say it's a migration issue, they have to take a decision. From time to time, they have to vote if they don't find a compromise. And then there are 5 yes, and the 2 People's Party, they are more on the right-wing side. They are no. But of course, they have this, they must as well, they can't speak out. They can't speak out against the government. You have there the confidentiality, and you really have there that they don't speak out, they don't attack other government members. They stay with them, and they don't have to, they can't really go out and during the referendum or initiative and say, I'm against. He has to be really in this collegium, he has to be very neutral, and he can't speak out when he is against what was decided in the majority of the government. I don't go too much into that. It's a little bit, in all the government, it's a little bit the same. What I would like to point out, it's from point 1 and to point 3. There in between, there is the examination of to prepare a law, and there we have then the consultation procedure. And that's very important in Switzerland. When you are making a law, then you have a first draft, and then you send it to 100 or 200 or 300 organizations, trade unions, and so on, that you really have something that is really a compromise as well, that you can find a compromise. Because in Switzerland, with the direct democracy, we will come to that, there is always the possibility that there is a referendum. You bring the law, and then there is a referendum, and if the trade unions are against it, then probably you will lose it. And so it's in their interest to have a compromise already at the beginning. So at the beginning, and then they go with this law to the parliament. The parliament will as well still discuss it and make some amendments, and then it goes, then it will be a law, or there is then the referendum that they block. They block it, and then we have to go for a vote 4 times a year. Then when we come to the cantons, it's really the nucleus of our system. The cantons are very important, as I said, and they have all equal status if they are 35,000 people, or if there are 100,000 or even 1 million people, they all have the same. And they all have their own budget, they all have their own political system, the taxation, and responsible for cantonal roads, for example. So, and then what it's really important as well, that each canton has its own constitution, each canton has its own parliament, government, and courts. So we have 26 ministers, 26 governments, 26 courts, 26 executive members for the government, and that makes it, of course, rather heavy, we have to say, 26 to have all these ministers and so on. And it's very difficult as well because with these three layers, you know, federal and canton and municipality, if somebody is complaining against the government, you don't know which one it's a municipality or it's a canton or it's a federal one. So it's a rather complex system, I really have to say. But it's really the autonomy of the cantons. It's really in our DNA. Then the role of the municipalities, that's then really, it comes to waste management, it comes to energy supply, education, and they really do it near to the citizen. And that's as well very important in federalism, that you are really near to the citizen, that when it comes to your neighborhood, when it comes to your backyard, when it comes to your road, to your village hospital, to your asylum home and so on, there you can speak out. There you as well, you have the right to make a referendum if you are not agree that a schoolhouse is built there and there. So it's really very, very near to the people. And that's villages or municipalities are really very important. And then we see that if you compare the cantonal governments versus the federal powers, and when I say 26 cantons, we really have as well to be aware that it's not that they are all single and doing it for themselves. There are a lot of agreements among the cantons. There are a lot of concordats. So that's very important to know. There is the House of Cantons, where all 26 cantons representatives are in Bern, in our capital, and then they really try to harmonize. For example, until 12, 15 years, we had different education systems. In Geneva, they started school in spring, and in Zurich, they started school in autumn. So when a family went from Geneva to Zurich, it was really with 3, 4 kids. It was really very complicated. It's like you move into another country. So there are a lot of concordats. There are a lot of agreements that they really try to harmonize as much as they can. And that's very important to know. It's as well with hospitals, you know, not that you have a hospital here and the other in the other canton 10 kilometers away, so that they really say, okay, if you have it there, then we do it on the other side, or we don't have to do it, and we make an agreement that our citizens from our cantons can come to your cantonal hospital. There is really a lot going on. There is a lot of cohesion going on. There's a lot of agreements going on, that there is really a cooperation among all these cantons. Then when it comes to foreign policy, that's a little bit a new phenomena. It was not always like that, but the cantons, as you know, when it comes to EU, when it comes to UN and so on, then especially in the EU with all these directives and so on, it implicates not only the federal level, it comes to the cantons. And so the cantons, they really know they fought hard, and they got now as well. When we have negotiations with the European Union for bilateral agreements, so representatives of the cantons are as well there. So it's not that they are 26, but they selected 1 or 2 or 3 members that are following the discussions. And they are following it, and they have the perspective of the cantons, and they can stop the diplomats and saying, listen, if you agree to that, that goes too much in our internal cantonal policy. We don't like that, and then they can stop. So it's very important. And as well, because for international organizations, we need to have, there is a mandatory referendum, and if then the people in the cantons or the governments in the cantons are again against, then you will never win a vote there. So it's always this control that you have. You have always the referendum back in your head, that you say, okay, if you do that, we will lose. Okay, you make the compromise during all the negotiations. The power of the cantons that we see here in the Responsible Business Initiative in 22. The Responsible Business Initiative was an initiative, you have it as well in the EU, that the Swiss companies, they are as well responsible for their distributors or for their companies when they are ordering from Bangladesh textiles or or elements or from Africa, oil and so on, that they are as well responsible when their environmental laws or human rights laws are affected. So it was a rather strong initiative, so that our big pharma, Novartis, Roche, and so on, when they have some manufacturing in other countries, so they would be responsible if in these factories that when they are violating human rights or affecting the environment. So there was then the vote, and that was interesting because it had to be an amendment to the constitution. And so you need the majority of the cantons as well as the majority of the people. And here we had the majority of the people, but the cantons were against. You had 40, we have half cantons, I don't go into that, 14 cantons that were against and 8 cantons, they were in favor. The big cantons, as I said, Zurich, Geneva, with a huge population, they voted yes. But the small cantons, they could block it with the cantonal majority. And so the amendment for the constitution didn't pass. So there you see as well how the cantons are really powerful, they can block. And as the small cantons we call it the Swiss primitive, where there is really very high traditions and EU is the devil and so on, but they are rather powerful. So we really have to sell it very hard as diplomats. Then to the tax system, we have a tax competition. It's as I said, I pay 3 taxes. I pay my taxes to the municipality, I pay my taxes to the canton, and I pay my taxes to the federal state. It's not very pleasant, but I have to do it, and everybody has to do it. And it's the canton who collects, and I have to fill out my formula and so on. It's the canton, and then they split the taxes. It's 1/3 or 1/4 to the federal tax. It's the half of it goes to the canton, and then 1/4 goes to the municipality. So that, because it's very important as well in federalism, you can't give the power to a canton, to a municipality, or to the federal state if they don't have the money. So they need the money, and they get it they have what they have, what they need to have to fulfill their tasks. And then we have this federal tax competition. You see, the federal tax is always the same, that in blue, but then it depends from canton to canton where you live. So if you open a company and you want to save taxes, you go to the canton of Zug, you go to the canton of Schwyz. In the canton of Zug, you have taxes of 22%. When you are in Geneva, you have more than 40%. It's a huge difference. And there are people that are moving, that are saying, listen, I go now to Zug, or I go to Schwyz or Unterwalden, that are very, very small cantons. And it's a tax competition, and it's a race to the bottom. And it's, then they are tracked. In Zug, you have mineral oil companies, you have Bitcoin companies, you have financial companies, and so on. It's very attractive for them. So it's very hard. And in Geneva, it's our international city. So there are companies, but it's not famous for companies. But it's really not equal in all that. And that's the reason that we have then the financial equalization process. And this financial equalization process, that means I get that the poor cantons, they are rural cantons, they don't have industry, they don't have a lot of economic power. So they will get from the canton of Zug, for example, they will get, in the end of the year, there is a calculation, there is a mathematic formula, and then you see, okay, Zug will give that and that to these and these and these cantons. Zurich is as well somebody in the plus, so they give to that and that. And so that you have a little bit an equalization of the tax revenues. There you see it, that the money goes here and there and there and there. It's on the other side, this one in orange, that are the contributors, and the other ones, they are the recipients. Here, the valleys, it's a rural canton where Gramontana is here, and it's a rural canton with a lot of tourism, okay, but there is not much of industry. There is no larger banks. There are no headquarters of Bitcoin or other companies. So they are rather poor. So this equalization process, it's really when you have unequal economic powers in different cantons, it's very important. And it works really well. It's from time to time there is an argument, and why do they are a little bit more lazy in the valleys? They are drinking too much in the restaurant. They could work more, and we have to pay less. Okay, there is a little bit. There are some jokes, but it works really very, very well. And I think as well, when you have these differences, it's very important to have it. Otherwise, you don't get this unity and to unify, and this common spirit to be in a country. The Swiss recipe for the success, the very important is, of course, solidarity and trust. You know, that you can't build from one day to the other. We have now 700 years of federalism, and we have this solidarity, we have this trust, and we have this common sense. You know, it's not the language that reunites us. We have 4 languages. It's not the religion. We have 25% now foreigners. There are Catholics, 34%, Protestants, 29%, and we have different religions. It's not the religion that unites us. It's not the culture. We have different cultures. So it's really the will, the political will, that we will be together. And of course, it's I didn't go into history 700 years ago, but we formed the different cantons at the beginning as a defense alliance. There was even in 1291, then the 3 cantons in the middle of Switzerland, they said, we want to defend each other, we are solidarity. And we are solidar, and we have to mutual assistance when it comes, then the big powers from the other side are coming. And so it grew up, and it came really, it was an evolution. It was not on a scenario. If today you would see Switzerland, you would be crazy if you say we make of this tiny Switzerland 26 cantons. You wouldn't do that today, probably. But then it grew slowly through history, and it's really our experience and our history and this political will that was very important. What are the challenges? When it comes to challenges, of course, we see that the costs, we have really 26 governments, each government 5 ministers, so we have 120 ministers in Switzerland. So administrations, each minister has his portfolio, and in my canton you have as well Minister of Health, Minister of Energy. You have the whole, as you have more than you have in the federal council. And then what I said as well, that the certain cantons with only 25% of the population, they can block a democratic process. As we saw with the Business Responsible Initiative, if there are more than 13 cantons against, and there are very, very small cantons, if all the small cantons, they have the majority, and they can block the big cantons, even if the population is much more than that. That's the power of our cantons. And then it comes as well the multilateralism when it comes to OECD regulations, when it comes to EU, they interfere more and more as well in the autonomy of the cantons. It's not only on the federal level that is affected when it comes to consumer rights, when it comes to health issues that are with us, they are on the cantonal level. But when the EU does a legislation or a directive on that and that and that, that affects the cantons. So then we have to the diplomats, we have to negotiate with the cantons, and then you have the more progressive cantons. They say okay, but then you have the others that say no, We are autonomous. We won't have the dictatorship of Brussels, and we don't like them. We are not we are not in the kingdom of Ursula von der Leyen. We are own Swiss, and that is more this approach that we have, that the rural population has. And the first one, the crisis management. When it comes to COVID, when we had COVID, health issues is on a cantonal level. When COVID broke out, we had 26 different regulations in our small country. So in my canton, they said, no, you can't go to a restaurant. It's all closed. I went 5 miles away in another canton. There you could go with a mask. And in other cantons, they said, you can, but only outside in the garden. So we had 26 different, and that makes it really difficult. But then when it was really rather important, then the Federal Council, we have in the Constitution that in emergency, that the Federal Council can jump in, and then he could harmonize it, and then he could the urgent law, he could put in urgent law, and then it was really unified. But we had a chaos, it was terrible. You call a friend, we can't go there. Okay, we go to the other canton. In 5-10 miles, you are in the other canton. Switzerland is very small. So it was a little bit, it was really absurd. But that's exactly as well federalism as it is. So I don't know if we have time for questions or during the discussion. That's it. I hope I could bring a little bit some spots of the federalism, of Swiss federalism here. And I thank you again for the invitation. Thanks a lot.
Πολλά μαθήματα που μπορούμε να πάρουμε για την Κύπρο. Αλλά εδώ οι φίλοι μας, ο Ασήμα Καμσόη και ο Ηλίας θα μιλήσουν και σε σχέση με την Κύπρο. Παρακαλώ τον Ασήμα Καμσόη να πάρει το βήμα για να παρουσιάσει τις ιδέες του σχόλιο. Ευχαριστώ.
Bunu kapatabiliriz herhalde, değil mi? Evet. Konuşmamı Türkçe yapacağım. Saygıdeğer konuklar, bugün bu salonda yalnızca coğrafyanın ve tarihin kader birliğine zorladığı Kıbrıslı Türk ve Kıbrıslı Rum siyasiler, yurttaşlar ve saygıdeğer büyükelçiler olarak değil, aslında Doğu Akdeniz'in geleceğini şekillendiren bir süreçte irade sahibi vatandaşlar, yurttaşlar olarak bulunuyoruz. Öncelikle ev sahibimiz, İki Toplumlu Barış İnisiyatifindeki dostlarıma ve yine aynı şekilde İsviçre Büyükelçisi Sayın Burgener'e gerçekten bu kıymetli buluşma için çok teşekkür ediyorum. Yaklaşık 2500 yıl önce yaşamış ünlü düşünür Efesli Heraklitos'un zamansız bir sözü vardır. Aynı derede iki kez yıkanılmaz. Çünkü onun pantarei, yani her şey akar anlayışına göre yaşamın özü durağanlık değil. Kesintisiz bir değişimdir. Sular akıp gider, zaman ilerler. Ne o dere artık eski deredir, ne de o insana eski insan diyebiliriz. Toplumlar ve tarih de bu büyük değişim yasasının dışına çıkamaz. Değişim, yaşamın bir istisnası değil, bizzat kendisidir. Bugün Kıbrıs'ın tarihi, coğrafi, ekonomik ve hukuki gerekçelerini rasyonel bir süzgeçten geçirmeye çalışırken, yaşanan acı tatlı tüm deneyimleri iyice etüt ederek geleceği planlamak gerekmektedir. Hatta en önemlisi, Kıbrıs'ta çözüm istiyorsak, ilgili tüm tarafların kazanacağı bütünsel bir çözüm vizyonu ortaya koymak ve savunmak zorundayız. 21. yüzyılın jeopolitik gerçekliği bize tek bir hakikati haykırıyor. Bugünün dünyasında hiç kimse tek başına kazanamaz. Ama ortak akılla inşa edilecek bir gelecekse, gelecekte herkes kazanabilir. Dünya bugün çatışmaların ötesinde yeni bir akış, yeni bir düzen arayışındadır. Bu düzeni kuracak olan bir üst akıl değildir. Demokrasinin özü olan ortak akıl olmalıdır. Kıbrıs sorununun çözümü artık sadece adadaki iki toplumun refahı için değil, Doğu Akdeniz'in, garantör güçlerin, Avrupa Birliği'nin ve küresel aktörlerin istikrarı için rasyonel bir zorunluluktur. Bizler bu rasyonel vizyonu kurumsal bir zemine oturtmak için İsviçre federal modelinin rüştünü ispatlamış anayasal mimarisinden ilham almalıyız. Uluslararası aktörleri de bu yeni kazan-kazan sürecine, ortaklığına davet etmek zorundayız. Siyaset biliminin en saygın teorilerinden olan uzlaşmacı demokrasi modelinin dünyadaki en başarılı örneği İsviçre'dedir. Bu model adadaki iki toplumun da varoluşsal korkularını aynı anda dindirebilecek, dikkate almamız gereken kurumsal bir tasarımdır. İsviçre'nin kanton sisteminde olduğu gibi aşağıdan yukarıya inşa edilecek bir federasyonda Kıbrıslı Türklerin oluşturucu devlet yapısı anayasal güvenceye kavuşur. Kendi iç işlerinde, yerel güvenlikte ve yönetimde tam yetkili olan, federal yürütmede ise dönüşümlü başkanlık sistemiyle siyasi eşitliği sarsılmaz biçimde korunan bir Kıbrıslı Türk toplumu geleceğe korkuyla değil, güvenle bakacaktır. Kıbrıs Rum siyaset yapıcılarının en büyük endişelerinden devlet mekanizmasının kilitlenmesi ve adanın kalıcı olarak ve haklı olarak bölünmesi endişesidir. İsviçre modeli devletlerin yetkilerini net bir şekilde ayırarak merkezin tıkanmasını önler. Ortaya çıkacak olan tek uluslararası kimlik, tek egemenlik ve tek vatandaşlık hepimizin toprak bütünlüğü, meşruiyet hassasiyetlerini de ortaya koyar ve tatmin eder. Bizler ne kadar siyasi irade ortaya koyarsak koyalım, günümüz dünyasında kalkınmanın, nitelikli yatırımların ve kalıcı barışın yegane yakıtı hukuki öngörülebilirliktir. Yarım asırdır devam eden statiko, adanın etrafında adeta görünmez bir gri hukuk duvarı örmüştür. Mülkiyet haklarından deniz yetki alanlarına, hava sahası yönetiminden uluslararası ticarete kadar uzanan bu hukuki belirsizlik, tüm taraflar için çok ağır bir finansal ve operasyonel risk maliyeti doğurduğu gibi ciddi bir güvenlik problemi de yaratmaktadır. Kıbrıs'ta uluslararası hukuka uyumlu federal bir ortaklık kurulması bu gri alanı tamamen ortadan kaldırarak her aktöre muazzam bir hukuki öngörülebilirlik kalkanı sağlayacaktır. Binlerce insanı esir alan ve uluslararası mahkemelerin önünde biriken milyarlarca dolarlık mülkiyet uyuşmazlıkları, federal anayasanın ve kurulacak mülkiyet komisyonlarının tarafsız hukuki çerçevesiyle çözülecektir. Toprak ve mülk üzerindeki belirsizlik bittiğinde adanın her iki tarafında da gayrimenkul ve altyapı değerleri rasyonel bir patlama yapacaktır. Doğu Akdeniz'deki münhasır ekonomik bölge slowly. Okay, thank you. Doğu Akdeniz'deki münhasır ekonomik bölge sınırlarının uluslararası hukuka uygun olarak netleşmesi, kıyıdaş devletler arasındaki egemenlik ihtilaflarını tamamen bitirecektir. Kıbrıs'ın deniz yetki alanları gri bölge olmaktan çıkıp tescilli birer hukuki sınır haline gelecektir. Kıbrıslı Türklerin ekonomik yapıları elbette yasal bir zemine kavuşacak ve küresel finans sistemine entegre olacaktır. Kıbrıslı Rumlara ise limanların ve hava sahalarının bölgesel devlerle tam uyumlu çalışmasını önündeki engelleri kaldıracaktır. Hukukun üstünlüğü adayı spekülatif sermayenin değil, kalıcı ve nitelikli küresel yatırımların çekim merkezi yapacaktır. Hukuki belirsizliğin bitmesi, doğrudan Doğu Akdeniz'deki doğal gaz ve enerji kaynaklarının da kaderini belirleyecektir. Bugün bu kaynaklar donanmaların karşı karşıya geldiği ve küresel sermayenin hukuki riskler nedeniyle yatırım yapmaktan uzaklaştığı birer finansal risk unsurudur. Oysa bu zenginlik adil bir siyasi çözüm ve netleşen hukuk zemininde birleştirildiğinde tüm aktörleri zenginleştirecek, devasa bir ekonomik kaldıraca dönüşebilir. Uluslararası enerji projeksiyonları açıkça göstermektedir ki Doğu Akdeniz gazının sıvılaştırılması, taşınması ve küresel pazarlara ulaştırılması için en kısa, maliyeti en küçük ve ticari açıdan en rasyonel rota Kıbrıs ve Türkiye üzerinden Avrupa'ya uzanan hatlardır. Kıbrıs'ta İsviçre modeline dayalı hukuki ve siyasi bir çözüm gerçekleştirdiğimiz an, enerji faaliyetlerinin askeri veya siyasi risklerden uzaklaştırılması, tamamen hukuki güvence altında yürütülebilecek sarsılmaz bir güvenli liman olacaktır Kıbrıs. Sigorta maliyetleri düşecek, proje finansmanları kolaylaşacaktır. Kıbrıslı Türklerin haklarının ve siyasi eşitliğinin federal anayasayla tescillendiği bu çözüm, Ankara'nın Doğu Akdeniz'deki stratejik konumunu etkin kılar. Türkiye, enerji denkleminden dışlanan bir aktör olmak yerine Doğu Akdeniz gazını dünya piyasalarına taşıyan hayati bir bölgesel enerji üssü, yani bir hub haline gelebilecektir. Bu istikrar, Türkiye-Avrupa Birliği ilişkilerindeki kurumsal tıkanıklıkları da hızla aşacaktır. Ve elbette Ege ve Doğu Akdeniz'de savunma bütçelerine harcanan devasa yükler hafifleyecek, Atina, Doğu Akdeniz'deki istikrarlı ve güvenli ticaret hatlarının en büyük lojistik ortaklarından biri olacaktır. Burada çok önemli bir rasyonel avantajı daha denkleme dahil etmek zorundayız. Birleşik Kıbrıs'ın zaten bir Avrupa Birliği üyesi olacak olması, İsviçre modeli Avrupa Birliği üyesi olmadan yürütülmektedir. Fakat Kıbrıs, İsviçre modelinin kurumsal gücünü AB müktesebatı ile birleştirerek çok daha güçlü bir sinerji yaratma şansına sahiptir. Avrupa Birliği üyesi bir federal Kıbrıs, her iki toplum için de benzersiz avantajlar sunacaktır. Avrupa Birliği'nin 4 temel özgürlüğü, bireysel hakları, mülkiyet güvenliği ve insan haklarını Avrupa Adalet Divanı güvencesi altına alması gibi. Aynı zamanda Kıbrıslı Türklerin az önce de bahsettiğim kendi oluşturucu devlet yapısı içerisinde ve iki toplumlu nüfus dengesini koruyarak özel istisnalar, yani derogasyonlar Avrupa Birliği hukuku çerçevesinde güvence altına alınacaktır. Avrupa Birliği federal yapının inşası, altyapıların birleştirilmesi ve adanın kuzeyinin ekonomik olarak güney seviyesine çekilmesi için de yapısal uyum programlarını devreye sokacak bir model ortaya koymuştur. Sadece liderlerin imzaladığı, halkın ise yabancı kaldığı hiçbir barış anlaşması kalıcı olmaz. Çatışma çözümü teorilerinin en temel kuralı şudur: bir çözümün kök salması için toplumların o süreci bizzat sahiplenmesi gerekir. İşte İsviçre modelinin dünyaya sunduğu en büyük inovasyon sadece kurumların tepesinde oturan elitlerin uzlaşması değil, doğrudan demokrasi ve katılımcı yaklaşım mekanizmalarıyla halkın bizzat oyun kurucu olmasıdır. Örneğin geleceğin Kıbrıs'ında sadece sandıktan sandığa işleyen bir yapı değil, çevre, dijital dönüşüm ve yerel kalkınma gibi ortak sorunlarda Kıbrıslı Türk ve Kıbrıslı Rum vatandaşların yan yana yer alabileceği vatandaş meclisleri kurabiliriz. Gelişen dijital demokrasi araçlarıyla her iki toplumun gençleri ve sivil toplum örgütleri federal yasa tasarılarıyla doğrudan katkı koyabilecek duruma gelebilirler. İsviçre'de halkın belirli bir imza sayısıyla yasaları referanduma götürebilme yetkisi vardır. Kıbrıs bağlamında bu mekanizma federal meclisin olası bir tıkanma anında kilitleri açacak sihirli bir anahtar olabilir. Siyasetçiler uzlaşamadığında halkın katılımcı iradesi devreye girerek iki toplumun ortak rızasıyla çözüm üretebiliriz. 2004 yılında travmatik referandum deneyimi İsviçre'de yaşanan dinamik ve yapıcı referandum kültürüyle yeniden ele alınabilir. Sonuç olarak bizler coğrafyayı değiştiremeyiz. Kıbrıs, Süveyş kanalının, Orta Doğu'nun ve Avrupa'nın kesişim noktasında jeopolitik bir mücevherdir. Tarih bize göstermiştir ki bu adayı bir çatışma ve hegemonya aracı olarak görenler hem adaya hem de bölgeye istikrarsızlıktan başka hiçbir şey getirmemişlerdir. Bugün ihtiyacımız olan şey İsviçre modelinin temel felsefesi olan ortak çıkarların rasyonel ve hukuki yönetimi anlayışını uluslararası düzeyde de işletmektir. Siyasat bir tarafın mutlak kazancı ile diğerlerini yok saymaya veya gri alanlarda oyalama sanatı değildir. Siyaset doğru kurumsal tasarımlarla herkes için daha büyük, daha zengin ve daha güvenli bir ortam yaratma becerisidir. Unutmayalım ki her bir tarafın kalben ve aklen kazanmadığı bir değişim projesinde günün sonunda hiç kimse kazanmış sayılmaz. Dünün sorunlarını, kişilerini ve ön yargılarını bir yana bırakmak, gerçekçi ve cesur olmak zorundayız. Bugün buradan tüm taraflara, Kıbrıslı Türk ve Kıbrıslı Rum arkadaşlarıma, Ankara'ya, Atina'ya, Londra'ya, Brüksel'e, Washington'a ve tüm diğer uluslararası aktörlere açık bir çağrıda bulunmamız lazım. Kıbrıs'ta federal çözümü bir dayatma olarak değil, yeni yüzyılın en büyük jeopolitik ve ekonomik fırsatı olarak görelim. Siyasi eşitlik ekseninde kurgulanmış, adil ve örnek bir ortak yaşam alanına bu adayı dönüştürelim. Hiç kimsenin kaybetmediği, aksine herkesin kendi rasyonel çıkarını, güvenliğini, mülkiyetini ve enerjisini uluslararası hukuk kalkanıyla güvence altına aldığı bir anayasal mimarı mümkündür ve elimizdedir. Gelecek nesillere coğrafyasının zenginliğini ve hukukunu çatışmayla heba etmiş bir Kıbrıs değil, enerjisini, coğrafyasını ve adaletini tüm tarafların kazandığı küresel bir refah projesine dönüştürülmüş, federal, güçlü ve barışçıl bir Kıbrıs bırakalım. Beni dinlediğiniz için çok teşekkür ediyorum. Sağ olun.
Sayın Akaksoy'a teşekkür ederiz. Şimdi de Sayın İlyas'ın
Bu mikrofona davet ediyorum.
Your Excellency, dear guests, dear friends of the Bicommunal Peace Initiative, United Cyprus, thank you for having us here today on a very interesting and useful topic for Cyprus. When I was thinking on today's discussion, I thought that many Cypriots would describe, ironically, their perspective for Cyprus as, let's say, we are almost going to be like Switzerland one day. So this is how average would consider Switzerland as a paradise, as an ideal world. But are we able and in a position to become Switzerland? I'm sure that we have lessons to learn, especially on the federal model. But allow me first to start with the general context. A federation is not necessarily the ideal political system, considering that it's costly in many cases or have other disadvantages. However, it is the system that has worked efficiently for various parts of the world, including some of the biggest countries of the world, India, USA, Australia, Russia, or European countries as Germany, Belgium, and of course Switzerland. And also we need to consider that 40% of the global populations lives in federal states. The reasons why federation is chosen varies from administrative reasons to historical reasons that have not to do with the evolution of these systems. These days I was reading, for example, some of Switzerland's history, and I was reading about the conflict of Catholics and Protestants in the 19th century over the existence of women monasteries, for example. That led to a civil war afterwards, and that created also the centralization of the co-federal model that existed back then. And that system, of course, evolved in the process and in order to serve the contemporary challenges and needs. I'm saying this to say that the reasons that might create a federal system might be particular, but the systems are being evolved according to the needs of the people and time. Of course, no federation is not the same as another, nor are the reasons for their creation. However, some characteristics are common to all: one state, single sovereignty, citizenship, and international personality, things that we always repeat in this island. Of course, specific competences are always at the federal central state level, as security and defense, foreign policy, and others. So discussions about the federation in Cyprus have their own particular characteristics, shaped by years of historical developments, negotiation processes, and international agreements. A bizonal bicommunal federation, it's not actually a magic formula that we invented, but it is a compromise between the historical difference of two sides, which have always involved foreign factors in the conflict, from the British colonial era to the Greek coup d'etat, the Turkish invasion, and so on. In other words, the BPF is a remedy for a particular political problem shaped over at least the last 63 years. Could we learn from the Swiss example when considering a federal Cyprus? Of course, there are things to learn. First of all, we speak about a single state, despite the existence of various constituent states, the cantons in the case of Switzerland, with a single international personality, sovereignty, and citizenship, even if exist also internal citizenships that are inferior to the state citizenship. It's also we need to consider that the federal law takes precedence over the law of the constituent states, the cantons. The trust in the state by its own citizens. This is achieved through the stability of the system, cooperation within the political atmosphere that is created, the transparency, the democratic culture, but most of all, the federal culture, the culture of consent. We have seen earlier also in the presentation on how the Federal Council is elected, for example. This needs a culture of consent. Unity through diversity, despite ethnic difference, linguistic and religious diversity. Seeking joint prosperity through harmonious coexistence and a stable political system, despite the diversity within the communities. They aim to prioritize common interest over the interest of the one over the other. And we see, of course, different mentalities if we look back on Cyprus history over that. So this is one of the key, as he mentioned also, some common incentives that are important to be included in the general dialogue towards a discussion for a solution. A political culture that addresses to all citizens as a whole. We have seen the discussion in the Cyprus problem, for example, on the issue of the rotational presidency with cross and weighted voting that creates the conditions so that politicians of the future will be addressing to all the population and not to their own communities on their own. So this is something that we need to invest and take an example from Switzerland as well. In Switzerland, we see also a horizontal cooperation between the cantons at the federate level, let's say. This is also important so that competences that do not exist in the federal level to be existing through the cooperation in other domains as education, health and culture, and many others that would not exist in the central federal level. Of course, we need to consider also our differences. The Swiss model, first of all, is a mature federal system, where Cyprus is starting from scratch. This is an important consideration when we speak about the political system. Discussion we have seen being repeated in Cyprus for many years. A federal Cyprus needs, most of all, stability, at least during the initial phase. This is why the presidential system would be more preferable to any other system, because in other systems you need also to they might be more democratic in one sense, but you don't have we have the absence of culture of coalitions between political parties from the one side and the other. So there are things that needs to mature over time, and the presidential system will give us the way to do that. In Cyprus, of course, we speak about two particular ethnic groups with political equality. The bizonality is also linked with the bicommunality, and Switzerland, on the other hand, has a more complex diversity. Nevertheless, in the case of Cyprus, we need to consider ways to bring the communities together after years of separation. For example, it's a necessity to enjoy basic freedoms across the island, and to implement also other elements within the solution, as the right of abode, where individuals can live in one constituent state and have rights in the other. So it is always important to examine other federal models, not because we will adopt them wholesale. In Cyprus, as in every part of the world, we need to create our own magic formula in order to transform a small country divided by conflict and a dark past into a place of stability, cooperation, empathy, and shared vision. Politicians should focus on that goal in order to serve future generations, rather than focusing on the next election that we have many in Cyprus. So let's make Cyprus like Switzerland maybe, but with some Cypriot characteristics. Thank you for your attention. Looking forward for the discussion.
Ευχαριστούμε, Ηλία. Τώρα θα ανοίξουμε τη συζήτηση. Παράκληση, είτε ερωτήσεις, είτε σχόλια, είτε οποιαδήποτε άλλη δήλωση θέλετε να κάνετε, να είναι σύντομη για να μπορέσουμε να πάρουμε όσον το δυνατόν περισσότερους φίλους εδώ που θέλουν να παρέμβουν, να σχολιάσουν, να συζητήσουν. Παρακαλώ, το βήμα είναι ανοιχτό. Να. Εδώ η Μαρία είδα. Θα πάρουμε κατάλογο.
sonra Kıbrıs'ta eğer bir federal sistem kullanabilirse temelde aslında gerek Türkler gerekse Rumlar bu coğrafyanın zenginliklerini birlikte paylaşmaya hazır olmalıdırlar diye düşünüyorum. Başka bir şey söyleyecek değilim bu aşamada ben. Bir de tabii ki Kıbrıs sorununda aslında federalizme giderken temel sorunlardan birisi bana göre güvenlik sorunu olmaktadır maalesef. Çünkü geçmişte iki taraf arasında yaşanan bir takım olumsuzlukları bir türlü göz ardı etmek olanağı yok. Maalesef öyle olunca da güven sorunu ortaya çıkmaktadır. Bunlardan soyutlanabilmek çok önemli.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry. There is a technical problem. So if you, εάν μπορείτε να έρθετε εδώ για να μιλήσετε, για να μεταδίδετε. Όποιος θέλει να πάρει το λόγο, να έρχεται στο βήμα εδώ. Απολογούμε. Ο τεχνικός μας εδώ μας λέει ότι πρέπει να μιλούν από εδώ οι φίλοι. Συγγνώμη.
Herkese merhaba. Benim bu toplantıda saptayabildiğim en önemli, bana çarpıcı gelen konu, Sayın Büyükelçinin aktarımından bir çıkarım. Şöyle ki, eğer iki toplum, yani Kıbrıslı Türkler ve Kıbrıs Rumlar bir arada yaşamaya hazırsalar, önce bu coğrafyanın zenginliklerini paylaşma konusunda birbirlerine anlayış göstermeleri ve uzlaşı göstermeleri gerektiği inancındayım. Bunun yanında temel sorunlarından biri iki toplum arasında geçmiş yaşanmışlıklardan yola çıkarak diyebiliriz ki güvenlik sorunu temel sorunlardan birisi. Bu sorunu da aşabilmek için her iki toplum yeni bir birlikte yaşam kültürünü geliştirmek açısından birlikte yaşamaya hazır olduklarını göstermek durumundadırlar. Aksi takdirde eğer güvensizlikle yola çıkarsanız, dolayısıyla bir yerde o güvensizlik tıkanıklıkları beraberinde getirecektir. Bunları aşmak için de muhakkak güvenlik sorununda karşılıklı güvene dayalı bir işbirliği ve bir ortaklık zeminini bulabilmek gerektiği inancındayım. Benim bu aşamada söyleyeceklerim bu kadar. Ben teşekkür ederim. Saygılar.
Kısa yorum veya soru olursa daha çok soru sorma imkanı elde ederiz. Maria sanırım sıra.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and thank you for all the comments and so on. I have, it's more a question about the confederal constitution and the cantonal, whether the gender quotas have been integrated into the power sharing model that has been used in Switzerland. And also, we all know that the women in Switzerland, they got the vote very late, in 1972. And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit on this issue. And my second question is with regard to the competencies of the cantons, especially on issues of education, and whether each canton is independent to develop its own textbooks, curriculum, Or is there a confederal overarching principles and values and that they all have to integrate in their curriculums? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Comes to women's rights and voting rights, all Swiss diplomats are always confronted with that. When I was a young diplomat in Algiers in 1990, my ambassador told me go to the minister for human rights and tell him that the human rights standards in Algiers are really, really terrible. So as a young diplomat, I went there and told the minister, you know, we see that in the prisons and that. And then he just smiled and said, listen, could you explain me a little bit how went it with the voting rights for women? We are talking about human rights. So it's everywhere we are confronted with that. And we had in 1959, we had the first vote. There were only 33% yes votes for that women can participate. So it was a failure, the first one in 59. And then the second one, as you rightly said, in 72, then we got a margin of 62%. And there were still some cantons that were rather reluctant, more conservative cantons and so on. And I remember that my father and my mother, then I was 10 years old, that they were discussing and that it was a rather dynamic discussion, I would say. Because in a very conservative country, you know, the women, church, children, and kitchen. That was a little bit the mentality then. But then it passed. Then what we have to say, there were some cantons that were more progressive already. You know, it was on a cantonal level, so there were some cantons that were more progressive, and even in municipalities in a small village in the valleys, in Unterberg, 300 inhabitants, they gave the first time the voting right for women in Switzerland. So there was in a municipality, and that then it went further to cantons, and then it was on a federal level, agreed in 72, because it needed, of course, an amendment to the constitution. So we had to go to vote, and then it needed the majority of the cantons and the majority of the people that we got. The second, for the education, as I said, the education is a cantonal domain, and there are different school books, there are different topics that are learned. But as I said as well, and as well Elias was mentioning it, there is a huge cooperation now between the cantons. So they really try to harmonize a lot, that they try to have the similar school books, that they try to have, they really have now as well the same holidays. So it was, of course, it's not exactly the same week. So every canton has its own holidays. There is as well, when it comes to religious days, in some cantons, in Catholic cantons, we have more day offs because we have some religious feasts there. So then the Catholic cantons, the people in the Catholic cantons, they go to the Protestant cantons who make their shopping because they have a day off. So there is still in religion as well, but as well in education, there is it's a domain of the cantons, but the cooperation is really more and more advanced. There is a conference of education ministers. They meet each month. They try to harmonize as much as they can.
Thank you. Which one is
Fikri?
no. The ladies first, and then Mr. Bülent.
Denise.
Simple question. Okay. Do you think that the Cypriots can learn to make compromise like the Swiss?
Everybody can make a compromise. But what I was learned, and I don't know, I have to ask you, what I hear that in Greek language or in Turkish language, the word compromise has a bad connotation. They say compromise, it's I have to give up, I have to give up. Whereas in Switzerland, we are living compromises in all political situations. We had now in my village 6,000 inhabitants, a schoolhouse, and it costs 13 million. So there was a vote as well, and then the compromise, okay, we make one for 7 million, and so on. It's a culture of compromise we have every day, as you have in a family as well. And you have to imagine you are in an apartment with 26 inhabitants. There you have to make compromises, and we have 26 cantons. We have to make compromises that nobody has a disadvantage, and that there is an equal treatment. And I'm optimistic that it can be the case as well in Cyprus, because we know the win-win. We know it's you were very near in some negotiations, so there is the final, the last mile has to be done. Yeah.
We hope so. Yeah. And then you.
Επόμενος, να πω και εγώ τη γνώμη μου που άκουσα για ότι ο πρόεδρος αλλάζει κάθε χρόνο και δεν ξέρουν ποιος είναι. Και άρεσε μου τούτο, διότι λένε ότι σε ένα μάτς, άμα δεν ξέρεις ποιος είναι ο διαιτητής, είναι πολύ καλύτερα. Σημαίνει ότι δουλεύει το σύστημα χωρίς επηρεασμούς. Μακάρι και εμείς να μπορέσουμε να έχουμε ένα σύστημα που να μην μας ενοχλεί και να μην ασχολούμαστε με ποιος ηγείται, γιατί να λειτουργεί η κοινωνία, η οικονομία, η διοίκηση με τον τρόπο που οι πολίτες να έχουν όλες τις ευκαιρίες χωρίς να χρειάζονται ρουσφέτη. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
My question is to Mr. Ambassador. You have explained very well the institutional mechanisms that maintain coexistence and power sharing. I am also curious about the social dimensions. You explained a little bit the education aspect. What about beyond institutions? What role do education, media, civic values, and social trust play in peaceful coexistence? And also, I'm curious, how is a shared identity developed alongside the distinct identities? Thank you.
Well, when it comes to social policy, there as well there is the conference of the ministers for social affairs. They are as well really they have even every second week they have meetings, and they really try to harmonize. And they really as well, you have different system. It's possible that for lower income families, you have more advantages in one canton than in the other one. That is possible. But there as well, there is a huge harmonization now, and it's a fair deal, and it's more and more harmonized. That doesn't mean that the cantons loses its autonomy or its identity. And it's the same as well with cultures, as we have as well in the cultural aspect with traditions. It's so huge. It's of course we have as well when we have 68% of German-speaking people. When I'm from the valleys, when I go to Bern, everybody knows, oh, you're from there. So we have different dialects, and we keep our traditions, we keep our autonomy, we keep our language, our dialects as well. And of course, when we are as well in a diplomacy, when now in the embassy, my number 2 is French-speaking, and we had once an Italian-speaking stagiaire there. So everybody can speak his own language. We are supposed at least to understand passively the other, but we can speak our mother tongue. And when it comes to reports, when I'm sharing with my deputy the report, she said, okay, I do that and you do that. I make the general introduction and you go to the nitty-gritty. And then the first half of the report is in German, the second part is in French, and we send it out.
Thank you.
Ambassador, you have a very good idea. which Greek Cypriot political party is supporting this idea? Who is the champion of this Swiss federal model in South Cyprus?
That goes a little bit into interior politics, but what I could witness that in not all, but in most of the parties, you find the more progressive, you find the more democratic. I see it in the main parties. I have discussions in the tavernas and so on. That you cannot. You know, it's when it comes to social affairs, then you see more a little bit. But in the Cyprus question, you cannot say Akel is like that, disease like that. You can say Eylem, there you can probably say, but it's okay. But with other parties, you have really a mix. And this mix, it depends as well when it comes to younger people. Even there, it's even more difficult. A lot of younger people, 20 to 30, you know, he's from an Akel family, you know, he's from a DC family, but they don't have this, not stubborn, but this ideological view anymore. And that gives me a little bit hope.
I'm trying to support the idea. My question is, if this idea is not carried in the platform of the political elections, none of the parties come out and say, we are proposing a Swiss federal system as a solution. So this body here, how do you plan to advocate, inform the public? Is there a budget for this to inform the public that this is a good system? Thank you.
Thank you.
Having observed and having discovered the Swiss model as one of the most successful living examples of federalism and federal structure, I'm sure most of the audience here, if not both sides of the divide on the island, are wondering why it's called confederation when it's anything but confederation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go around a little bit in history. Elias, you mentioned that there were wars, Protestants, Catholics, and first we had this confederation. We had a confederation, so there was more on defense, and there was a confederation. There was autonomy for each and every country without any, or canton, without any federal system. But then in 1848, we have got a new constitution. And then it was as well the Catholics, they were rather reluctant to have a federation because they said we lose our autonomy and we want to be independent. And the Protestants, they were more liberal. They saw the economic advantages when you are a federation, that it's more efficient as well. So they agreed that they will be a federation, but to calm a little bit the Catholics, they said, okay, we keep the name. We keep the name, and so it's a Swiss Confederation, CH, you see it on the cards as well. It's everywhere a Swiss Confederation, but it was really, now you would say it would have been a PR for the election process and for the election campaign. But it was really like that, because if you call it a federation, then probably the Catholic, they would have been, so you could calm them a little bit, and they got it, yeah.
Yes, please.
Just a remark, because the interpreters are going to stop in a while. So the request is to have three more
Questions or
comments, short one, and then to finish 10 up there. Thank you. Sorry for this. Okay. Unfortunately, the time is time. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So my question, Mr. Ambassador, is whether in Switzerland's history you have had any referendums which have been very emotionally heavy for people, because if you heard also from the comments here, there has been a very heavy political discourse and narratives and heavy emotions regarding the 2004 referendum in Cyprus. I heard the word traumatic before. So have there been any traumatic referendums in Switzerland that the people are still managing to digest or are not referring to either as a victory or with hatred? Can you explain, please? Thank you.
Yes, we had that. When it comes to European matters, then it's really getting tough. I showed you the slide when we had a narrow result joining the European Economic Area, and that was really very, very heavy. And ministers that were voting for, they really had to go with bodyguards to some during the campaign. That was really heavy. We had now just 3 weeks ago, we had the initiative of the Swiss People's Party that no more than 10 million, and then you stop it. So it's to cap at 10 millions. We have now 9.1 million inhabitants, and they wanted that until the year that if the projections were that in the year 2040 to 50, we will have 10 millions. And they said we have to put it in the constitutions. We don't want to have one man or one person more than 10 millions. And so that was rather heavy. It was against foreigners. It was, of course, asylum seekers, refugees. That was rather heavy. The result was 55% no, that we don't want to have to cap the 10 million, but 45% yes. Yeah. There are emotions, but to be fair, it's after 1 month, then it comes down, and then very often it's possible that they come in 5 years again, and they will have another initiative that brings this issue up to the political calendar. We have 27% of foreigners, so we have crowded trains. We don't find a location for affordable location. So it's very easy for populist parties to put it into the political agenda.
Thank you. Yes, Halil.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ambassador, my question is, how do you construct Swiss identity beyond ethnic nationalism?
That's a very good question. When in Switzerland, when somebody, I would never, we know, where do you come from? Nobody tells you, I'm Swiss. I'm from Zurich, I'm from Lausanne, I'm from Geneva. It's the canton that it's really and the identity, we see it in sports, we see it, and everybody is fanning for the national team. Even if 2/3 are Albanians or from Kosovo, they are the best player we have. But then that creates identity. Sports is really very important in Switzerland. In ice hockey, we were in the World Championship final, and that creates. Then you see the whole country is fanning for. But otherwise, you see it very rarely. It's this identity is really more on a cantonal level than on a federal level.
Yes, please.
Εγώ δεν έχω ερώτηση, απλώς θα θυμίσω και την ερώτηση της αγαπητής μου Ντενής για τον συμβιβασμό. Θα σας πω ένα πράγμα. Ονομάζομαι Κυριάκος Τσεμπάζης. Το μισό μου όνομα είναι ελληνικό, το μισό είναι τουρκικό. Μέχρι 5 χρονών πριν να πάω στο σχολείο, τη λέξη τεπέ δεν την ήξερα στα ελληνικά. Ήξερα μόνο τουρκικά. Την έμαθα στο σχολείο. Διότι όλη μέρα είμαστε μαζί όλα τα παιδιά. Δηλαδή δεν υπήρχε διαφορά στη γλώσσα. Μπορεί να ορισμένα πράγματα να μην τα γνωρίζαμε, αλλά βρίσκαμε συμβιβασμό, βρίσκαμε την κοινή γλώσσα και την είχαμε. Αλλά το 1955 μας χώρισε. Από τότε θυμηθήκαμε τη σημαία, βάλαμε την στο σχολείο, κλείσαμε και το σχολείο. Δεν μαθαίναμε γράμματα, διότι έτσι θέλανε να είμαστε ένα γραμμάτι. Μας εκτιμήσαν την Ένωση να ενωθούμε με έναν άλλο κράτος. Αντιλαμβάνομαι ότι το θέμα του συμβιβασμού... Συγγνώμη, είπατε κάτι? Ναι, το θέμα του συμβιβασμού είναι πολύ μεγάλο. Είναι μεγάλη υπόθεση. Διότι και το 60, το Σύνταγμα του 60 προνοούσε τον συμβιβασμό, ήθελε τον συμβιβασμό. Αλλά οι Ελληνοκύπροι δεν τον ήθελαν. Γι' αυτό δημιουργήθηκε αυτό το πρόβλημα, το κυπριακό πρόβλημα. Διότι εμείς θέλαμε την Ένωση και μείναμε σε αυτό το πράγμα. Δηλαδή πρέπει να σκεφτούμε έξω από το κουτί και να δούμε το συμβιβασμό ως όφελος και των δύο κοινοτήτων. Αν δεν το δούμε έτσι, δεν υπάρχει προοπτική για το Κυπριακό. Αυτό λέω μόνο. Ευχαριστώ.
Yeah, two short questions. One more for Mr. Akansoi. Thank you for your presentation. My question has to do with, since you are positive towards the Swiss model, by what you have said, I understand that you are for 2 cantons instead of more cantons than 2. That, in my head, rings like something else rather than the Swiss model. And I will propose if we could actually work with the cantons in local authorities after a solution where the citizens will go back to where they came from, like we go back to like Turkish Cypriots from Paphos, go back to Paphos and so on. How, if we work on cantons in regions instead of 2 cantons, which sounds to most people like BBF or even something worse than that. And the second question or comment has to do with my dear friend Elias. The bibliography actually, Leibhardt, who talked much more than anyone else about presidential and parliamentary governance, they are more pro-parliamentary, especially for countries like ours, because that way we decentralize power and we enforce checks and balances, which is something that we need in Cyprus now and to develop a better country in the future. Thank you very much.
Just to make a comment that this should be the last comment or question from the audience because we don't have, unfortunately, time. And I request Elias and Akansoi to answer. And then consider this is a final remarks in order to close the session and the final remark after that to Mr. Ambassador. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, so answering to my friend Andreas, I totally agree that the presidential system might not be the more democratic one. I didn't say that. I said that this is a more stable one. And what we need in the case of Cyprus, of 2 communities that have passed through many years of separate political system, is stability. This is why we need to choose a presidential system that, as you remember, and many of you here, we were speaking about a rotational presidency in which both communities are playing the role on the elections of the one and the other leader, in a way that future politicians are addressing to all the population of the island and not to their own community as well. And this is very critical in the issue of the creation of a federal culture. And if we would adapt parliamentary system or even a presidential council system that exists in Switzerland, was discussed in Anantran, as you know, can you imagine a parliament that you need to make coalitions between, I don't know, Vico, UBP, and many others known of our friends? These are the issues that will make the whole process more complicated. And this is why the presidential system seems the most preferable under the particular conditions.
The last final sentences.
Okay. I would like to thank everyone for being here, and I need to conclude with the following. We are not going to become Switzerland one day, I'm sure about that, but we need to learn a lot from our Swiss friends that had to do historical compromises within their history that has always been complex and difficult, and we need to get inspired for finding our own way to the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Evet, ben de çok teşekkür ediyorum herkese. Gerçekten çok şey öğrendik. Çok verimli bir toplantı gerçekleştirdik. 700 yıllık bir tarihten bahsediyoruz İsviçre'den bahsederken. Bunu hiç unutmamak lazım. Büyük bir mücadeleden bahsediyoruz, büyük gelgitlerden bahsediyoruz. Günün sonunda kendine özgü, demokratik bir yapıdan bahsediyoruz. İsviçre modeli kendine özgü bir yapıdır. Elbette biz de Kıbrıs'ta kendimize özgü bir federal model geliştireceğiz. Burada tabii şunu açıkça söyleyeyim. Biz federal kültür yaratma noktasında başarılı olamadık. Ya da yeterince başarılı olamadık diyeyim isterseniz. Hani biraz daha rahatlatmak için kendi kendimizi, kendi ruhumuzu. Başarılı olamadık. Bakın burada çok değerli, çok önemli şahsiyetler var. Uzun yıllardır hepimiz mücadele ediyoruz. Pek çok aktivite ortaya koyuyoruz. Ama adanın her iki tarafındaki statikonun structure'ünü, omurgasını sarsacak federal dönüşümler ne yazık ki henüz yaratamadık. Dolayısıyla bugün için öncelikli olan şudur değerli arkadaşlar. Adanın bölünmemesi gerekiyor. Resmi olarak bir an önce bizim çözüme ulaşmamız gerekiyor. Benim kişisel görüşüm gevşek federasyondur. Tek egemenlik, tek uluslararası kimlik ve elbette tek kimliğin olduğu bir modeldir. Burada siyasi eşitlik Kıbrıslı Türkler için önemlidir. Mehmet abi ayrıldı galiba. Güvenlik dediği her iki toplum için çok önemlidir. Yani sahip olduğumuz çözüme dair bilgileri biraz reel politikle harmanlamamız lazım. Bir an önce çözüm, Sayın Menelo burada, yani kendisinin önünde bunları konuşmak çok zor ama kendilerini Sayın Erhürman'ı, Sayın Christodoulidis'i ve Sayın Olguin'i cesaretlendirmek, daha fazla çalışmaları için bu yaz döneminde elde edilecek olan adımlar çok çok önemlidir tarihimiz açısından. Bakınız tarihimiz açısından öyle okuyorum. Dolayısıyla bir an önce çözüm, bir an önce tek egemenlikli bir çözüm olsun, siyasi eşitlikli bir çözüm olsun. Ardından federal kültür, inanıyorum ki o imzalar hep birlikte atıldıktan sonra doğması için bizlerce üretilecektir. Çok çok teşekkür ederim. Burada olduğum için çok mutluyum. Sağ olun.
Last sentence.
Thank you. Just there was they were mentioning to bring two units to a federal state, and each professor will tell you it's more difficult to bring two unities to a federal state than 5 or 6. And there is a paper of Ahmed Sözen and Leonidas Pantelis, you know, this paper where they have they try to have 5 or 6 or 7, I don't know how many, as unities, and then to bring them together. That's just as a food for thought. For the other thing, as I mentioned, to have a federation, what are the keywords? It's solidarity and trust. And who can make solidarity and trust? That's not a top-down process, that's a bottom-up process. And that's the reason I'm really very, very impressed by all these bicommunal activities here in the buffer zone and everywhere on the island. I really admire this courage, I admire the persistence as well, and I think that is really very important. Solidarity and trust can only be a bottom-up process. And thank you very much for doing that and to have this courage and to have this activity and dynamic. Thanks a lot. Thank
you. Just I would like to thank everybody of you who are sitting here up to the moment, and many thanks to the interpreters for their interpretation. And many thanks to our technicians that voluntarily are helping us for all these things to carry. And Dinos particularly, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I think, okay, we managed to conclude.